Hey guys, I've got one more tutorial that I can share with you today, and this is how to create a quilting square using the Bernina software. It's something else that I figured out how to do, which was really fun, quick, and simple. It took me a while to figure it out, but I thought if I put this tutorial together, it'll help you get started and you're able to get up and running a lot faster. So here I have an example of how I created a fabric tack down line, a batting placement line in this green line, and then a fabric tack down line in this grayish purple thread color here, and then I have the background quilting centered inside as the final step that would be stitched out to make a quilting square. So I wanted to show you the very basic steps on how to do that, and also give you another tip that you could kind of think of as a tip for getting up and running as a quick start guide that will be very useful for you when you're first opening up the software for the first time. So the first thing I wanted to give you is that quick startup guide tip. All of these icons that appear on the top of the screen do not have a name, and so when you first open up the software, it can feel a little overwhelming not knowing what each of these icons stands for. So the default setting when you open the software for the first time is to see the icon only and not the label for the icon. So I figured this out about 2 weeks into the trial. I wish I had seen this as the first video that I ever watched. It's super convenient. So the way to get the icons labeled is you go up to the top here and go to Settings and left click on Settings, and then you go to Options, and then you select this General tab. There's different tabs in here. You want General, and then you go to right here where my mouse is hovering, it says Toolbars, and you select Show Tool Names. So if I unselect this and if I click OK, watch what happens up here. You're going to see all the names for the icons disappear. So it just seems like there's some icons that I just had no clue what they meant because they weren't labeled, and I had to spend a lot of time clicking each one and figuring out what they did, and it was very time consuming. So it would be nice if this software were set by default to have each of these icons labeled, but it's not, and it's not super intuitive to know how to label them right away. So this is going to help you get started and moving very quickly. You just go to Settings using the left click on your mouse, and then left click on Options, and then when you go see the general, under the General tab, there's this toolbar feature, and you click Show Tool Names, and once I press OK, you're going to see all the names for every icon appear. If you keep your eye up here, when I'm going to press OK, you'll see all those names show up. Isn't that amazing? It's so, life gets a lot easier once you realize that can be done. It'd be so nice if everybody who was training on the software saw that tip first. So I'm going to show you how to build a quilting square using the Digitize toolbox on the left-hand side of the screen where all these different toolboxes are. So first I'm going to create a new file, and I've got my 5x7 hoop selected. That's the largest hoop I have for the machine I have right now. So to select the hoop, if you're just getting started, this hoop icon up here, you can make it disappear and reappear by left clicking. If you right click, you can actually select the hoop you want to use. So you select your machine from the drop down menu here, and then you select the hoop size from the drop down menu here. And if you see this here, that's the default position for the software, so that everything is automatically centered in the hoop. Any design that you create by default is going to be automatically centered in the hoop. If you don't want it to be centered, then you have to select Manual, and then you can use your cursor to move the objects where you want it to be, and it will stay in the position that you put it in. So for now, it's super easy to just think that you leave the default setting and everything will automatically center, and that's what you want to do for this project. So I'm going to click OK. So in order to create a quilting square, the first thing we want to do is to create a batting placement line for your stabilizer. So the way to do that is to left click over here on the left hand side on the Digitize toolbox, and then you're going to left click on this item here called Rectangle, and then you're going to use your cursor and your left click, holding down your left click, drag out a rectangle, and it doesn't matter what size it is. Let go of the left click and then click it again, And now you've got a box. And now we want to grab it in color film by left clicking on the item, this box in color film. And you can see that this box has been selected because these little squares are showing up now. And now you can change the size of the square by hitting this little drop down menu here. And you want to unlock proportional scaling by left clicking on that. You can see the little keypad is unlocked now. Now I can give it the exact size that I want. So in this case I want 5 inches by 5 inches. And then in order to make sure that this square is centered in the hoop, I actually have to place the X and Y position to 0. And once I do that, I hit enter. Now I've got an exact 5 by 5 box that is centered in my 5 by 7 hoop. So my first step of creating the batting placement line is complete. Now I want to create a fabric placement line using a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch box. So I'm going to select another thread color so that it will stitch out as a separate step. Let's just say I'm going to randomly choose orange. So sorry, I got to edit and undo edit. I have to deselect this first, otherwise I'm just going to change the thread color of that box. So if you click outside the hoop, then I've deselected it, or you can select escape and you can deselect it that way. Now I can choose my thread color so that I'm creating a separate step. If I choose orange, and then I go back to the rectangle tool and left click on that and just quickly do the same step. It doesn't matter what size your square is. Now you can see, because I chose a different color of thread, it appeared in a new step in color film right over here. Now that I've selected it, I go in color film. I can go to this little drop down box and have to unlock it again. I guess you have to left click twice. And then I'm going to give it the size of 5.25 by 5.25. And then make sure X and Y are set to 0 and hit enter. And now you can see that I've got the fabric basting box as my second stitch in my project. Now the final step is to add the quilting design. So I'm going to deselect this fabric tack down line by selecting the escape key on my keyboard. And now it's deselected. And just to be on the safe side, since I don't know what color of thread my quilting design is in, I'm just going to select on the bottom another thread color to make sure that it will appear as a separate step in color film. Now I go to embroidery, insert, and I have my quilting design already on my desktop. I can find some 5 by 5 continuous line quilting designs online. There aren't a ton of them, but there's a few out there, and so this is one of the few that I've managed to find. And so you just click open and say OK, and because it was prepared already centered in the hoop, here it's fitting exactly inside my 5 by 5 inch square. And now if I want to add lettering or applique or any embroidery design, I keep using the embroidery insert and I can add any other design elements I want into that quilt square. And now I've got a basic templated project that I can use for an entire quilt. So if I wanted to use this background quilting for an entire quilt, I can do that. And so this is something else you can do in your trial period, is create a project file to build a whole quilt off of. So one thing I have on hand is some of the AccuCut dies for using with quilting. And for example, I have the orange peel die. They offer free embroidery files to create a blanket stitch around your die cut piece, for example my orange peel die. And so I could quite literally do embroidery insert here and put the orange peel in there and make that the final item that I put into this quilting square. and then I can put this through the embroidery machine for how many times I want and end up with a lot of quilt squares that I can sew together using the quilt as you go method. So it's just one possibility for using this software to prepare files for quilting a whole quilt, and you can do that in this 30-day trial period, and it's very simple to do. So I know some people are right now working on the bench pillow that just came up from Kimberbell, and so I went ahead and did a little experiment, and I downloaded some of their quilting files to see how I could stitch out a background quilting file so that I do 2 hoopings, and I'm able to have this background quilting show up in a 6x8 square, even though I only have a 5x7 hoop. So they just did a tutorial on it, and I was able to recreate what they did without needing to get the blue clear tiles. I used their blue clear tile embroidery files, and I used a basting box that you can see right here as the crosshair to center this background quilting file into my hoop so that it stitches out twice. This is going to be the first stitch out, and then the second stitch out will be right here. And so I haven't tested it, but it looks like it's going to work, and if it does, I'll do a separate tutorial on how to do that, because they have a lot of bench pillow designs that and a lot of quilts for quilting these finished size blocks that are 6x8 that require a 6x10 hoop. And if you don't have that, then the option that you're left with is to do 2 hoopings. And so I spent some time trying to figure this out, and I think it's going to work. So if all goes well, then I'll upload the a tutorial for that if I get some time. So anyways, I'll end for now, and I hope this is really helpful for people out there that are learning this software and just doing some gift making for the holidays. So I'll end for now. I'm sorry you have to look at this, and I'll see you guys on the next video. So have a great weekend, and I'm not sure when I'm going to upload next, but this has been great fun for me, and just hope that it adds to some other people's excitement for the holidays if you like to make things using your embroidery machine.